Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Purpose Tune podcast. The goal of my show is to create valuable content to hopefully broaden your knowledge, inspire you to act, and get you in the right mindset so you can apply it in your own life to drive impact, generate meaning, and achieve your purpose. Now, today's episode guest is Raj Goodman Anand. Raj is the founder of Goodman Lantern, a team of native English content writing services that help businesses sell better and grow faster. An engineer by profession, he has founded 3 startups, raised capital, and taken one venture from zero to acquisition. He has not only had a flourishing career within startups, but also with large and mid-sized organizations, working on launching startups or new products within them. Products he has built have made companies very successful and have generated an income of over $52 million in revenue. Moreover, Raj has also won Business Week's Europe's Young Entrepreneur in 2007 and has been named as one of Revolution magazine's 50 most influential people in digital. He has spoken at various venues, including the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, British Library, and several universities, including LSE. Raj and his entrepreneurial ventures have had coverage in the Telegraph, The Guardian, Business Week, and Observer. Raj, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Thank you, Kong. I'm good, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for the lovely introduction. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really fun to, did a bit of research on you and, and to read off your bio. I think that you're an ideal guest on this show just because of the accomplishments that you've had throughout your career, but also because the things you've done in your life are tied back to purpose. And I want to just start off by saying, what does purpose mean to you?
Well, I think purpose is something which drives a person, which drives the action they actually take. Why do they wake up in the morning? Why do they get out of bed? It's all linked to the purpose that the big, what I call the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, something which you want to make sure that you achieve before you depart from this planet. So purpose is something which is almost the reason why perhaps we exist, for example, in some ways. And if we have a meaningful purpose, I think it just makes life more fulfilling, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a place that people can go to find more value in what they do in their work and also the relationships that they have. I think that to me, purpose is sort of the North Star, right? Like the guiding light in times when I'm faced with challenging situations or encounters where I feel like I've been either misguided or that I feel lost, that it's a good point to reference. And so very happy that we're connecting to talk about and contributing to this notion of purpose. Now, when did you develop this sense of meaning in your life? Like when did this internal conversation started for you? And also at that time, were you struggling or dealing with any difficult situations? What was that like?
I feel that as human beings, when we are in a scenario or a situation where things are out of control, when things are completely up something bigger and mightier, that's when the idea of purpose comes out even stronger. And for me, it was on the time when my wife was very ill, very, very ill. And we didn't know what's going to happen to her. And I think that's when it hit me that if she recovers, and thankfully she's okay now. She went through an episode of breast cancer, tons of chemos and radiotherapy. I think that's when it hit me that actually, I'm chasing a number, a financial goal, but why am I doing that? Like, what is the purpose of doing that? Like, is that going to help me be happier or more satisfied? Um, then I realized perhaps not. Maybe it is something silly to go after. Perhaps it's not worthwhile for me. And it's been a very long time to figure out what my purpose was, like what drives me and what makes me do what I do, especially work-wise. I spend a lot of time working. I mean, this is part of our lives. We spend probably more time at work than with our partners, with our families, and so the work had to be more driven with a purpose as opposed to just to make revenue or to grow offices or to buy this or buy that, for instance. Um, so yeah, that's when it really struck me that actually I need to think about my my big purpose for doing what I do and how will I go about it? How will I actually make an impact? Not just say that I will have a purpose and nothing about it, but actually whatever I do professionally, it actually impacts the big scenario, the big change I want to make in this world. And yeah, that's how it began. It was properly executed 2016, but it was in my mind before then as well. 2016, it became more concrete, and the following year I started to really think about this more and more so.
Mm, yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that story. You mentioned a point about how we spent so much of our waking hours at work, more so than spending time with our loved ones. And of course, I know that we all know that, but it just kind of like sunk in to me, that that is correct. Like really, that is true. Like because I'm so always on the go, and I don't often think about it. And looking back, I'm like, I haven't seen my family in about 2 years. And part of it had to do with COVID and traveling and, keeping my family safe. But it just, again, reminds me how short life can be, and that we really do have to find what is it that lights us up every day, that we're excited to go to work, because life is short. And if we don't enjoy work, that's like majority of our time spent is on that arena. And if we're not happy with it, we're going to take that unhappiness home to our relationships at home, our kids. So we really have to tap into the space of what is it that lights me up. There's this, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept of ikigai. It's a Japanese term. Yeah. So it's essentially, what can we, what is it that the world needs more that we can help to solve, and that we can do more of that makes us happy, and that we can get paid for doing it. And so, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, ikigai is a very interesting concept, and I read a book with a similar title recently, and it struck me how some people spend an awful lot of time to build up the perfect. I think it was the perfect teacup to have their beverage from, and I just thought that sounds silly initially, but it's that passion to achieve something which is close to your heart. You want to make sure that it's the best of, whether you're a farmer, growing fruit, or whether you are, a craftsman building the most impressive artifact for yourself. I think it's that passion for something which you believe in. I mean, you know, I've read and extensively heard about painters, sculptors who kind of, spend their entire life like just be devoted to their art, and they probably die very poor. But what they leave behind is a legacy where I'm sure if they could look back and come back to this world and see what they've done, they've made our lives much better. I mean, bring a smile to our faces, for example, makes us feel proud of humankind, for example. So I think ikigai is a very interesting concept, and I think it's for the passion or the determination for something that you really care about, and I think it's important to have that, because if you don't have that, then you're just living a life without any purpose and without any meaning, really, and that's just boring and really not worth living, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I don't know who said this, but this personal development guru said, you could just tell who's living a life full of meaning and who actually died, even though they're
Yeah.
living, by looking into their eyes. Like, some people are already dead. Like, there's no light shining through them. They're just walking like, zombies without any soul. And it's just a matter of when they get hit by the bus. and we want to be able to make an impact where we can bring these folks to life. And I hope that by continue to invite guests like yourself into this podcast, that I could inject some light into some of these individuals, and get them to wake up and say, look, I mean, we only have one shot at this, and let's make it count. So, speaking of making it count, you've done quite well for yourself on a professional level. Tell us more about your entrepreneurial journey. Like, what was it that that got you involved into this entrepreneurial route, and what is it about developing, launching startups, and taking them to acquisition that ties into your purpose?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kong. Thank you for asking. So just gonna go back to where I began. I come from very humble beginnings. Not a lot of cash in the family as such to to run my own companies from day one. I really had to kind of bootstrap all the way. But just go back to university. Um, my 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 initial degree was in computer systems, so I was learning about software and hardware, and I was always looking out for something to define my sort of next steps. I knew that I have to earn money to kind of survive. So at university, I was always sort of, doing part-time jobs to kind of fund my degree and my life. And often at times I was thinking to myself, like, there must be something I can do. And like most other kids, I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to a bank and I get a job with them. So I applied to a few, I got a few interviews, got an opportunity to kind of go ahead, but somehow it didn't feel right to me. It just didn't feel like that was my calling. Just didn't feel excited and passionate about it. And at the same time, I met somebody. He was interning, actually visiting from the US. And back then, MySpace, which is like a Facebook of our generation, was really kicking, and being a big deal in the US, and it hadn't launched in the UK then. So I just built a clone of MySpace uh, overnight. No, sorry, over a month. I didn't sleep much. I slept about 3 to 4 hours every day, and I just programmed the whole like MySpace clone. And now I had a MySpace clone. Like, I don't know what to do with it, but I built it. And so I went out to learn about marketing and sales, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I love marketing. This is a brilliant bit of thing I can use to promote my business. But then I thought, hang on, this could be used for other people as well. So the first thing I built a MySpace like software building tool. So I actually allowed people, customers, to have their own social media for them and their customers to interact with. And I started that company, took it to a level, but then didn't really work out the way I planned it. And wrote a book for the Financial Times and Business Education about social media and recruitment. And then I started working for a corporate, joined them as head of innovation and became the CEO. I think over the time I realized that actually I love digital. I love digital marketing. That's my passion. Um, but again, at that back then, I didn't have a purpose. My purpose really was to hit a number. It was always about like, okay, this is gonna be my financial goal. We're making this much money. I should be flying this kind of class of flights gonna take. I need to have this, and this. I was never sort of after like buying stuff for myself, but it was just like having a number in the like bank balance with this kind of number in it, or own this stuff because it's so success, for example. It was never about uh, just hoarding stuff. That's never mean ever, because I don't believe in that. In either case, I think it was all about sort of growing the business, taking it to the next level, hiring more people, and I moved from a startup to corporate to then realizing that I'm taking 280 flights per year for the corporate, and I'm making them a lot of money. But I only saw my family once a month. That was it. Somewhere nice. Can't complain about that, but just once a month. And I was like, is this life worth living
Mm.
for that sort of lifestyle? And that's when I started Goodman Lantern, the vision to um, work remotely. So 7 years back, before even we heard about COVID, for example, I was with a remote company. The aim was to be able to run a company from a boat, and and the reason for that simply is that I could then travel and visit friends and family, but also to take a passion. So I realized in my previous business that I could help a company grow from 7.5 million to 45 million euros in revenue. And actually, that's all back with storytelling, content writing, SEO. And that's very powerful, especially in B2B, it's very powerful. So I'm like, hang on, let me scale that up for clients to write content um, at a much greater level, really bring in that talent. And so that's how GL started, and rest is history. And then I've thought about next steps afterwards. But that's the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey and where I'm right now.
Yeah, that is incredible. Just about, when you questioned yourself, um, is this a lifestyle worth living? Like, it just gave me goosebumps because, I'm beginning to ask questions like, if I do this, does it serve me? Is it purposeful? Is it, what is my intent? Um, and I think that we should all continue to ask ourselves questions such as that, like those questions. What's the intent? Is it good? Does it serve me in a way that will also serve, the people that I'm with in my communities? And also, what's the purpose of whatever action I'm about to take? I think those are powerful questions that we should visit on a regular basis, just so that we can be on track to a purposeful and meaningful life. So that's definitely a insightful situation that you had, almost like an aha moment, when you asked that question. What is, does this lifestyle doable? So of course, in the span of what, 20 plus years, you would say, in the entrepreneurial route, am I correct? 20, or is it 30 years?
It's a bit less than that, but yeah, I mean,
approximately.
yeah, approximately, yes.
Approximately 20 years of entrepreneurship. Did you have any mentors that guided you, any resources, books or podcasts or anything that you turned to? Or was it just like, I grew up with a family that taught me these things and I could just kind of use that and play as I go?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because yesterday I was watching Entourage, the American TV series, and I actually love it. It's just one of my favorite series and stuff. And I was looking, I was in season 2, and it was about Ari Gold. Ari Gold is like this very flamboyant sort of like agent, trying to get people more gigs, and really well networked in his industry of media and movies. And I remember one of my mentors was a bit like him, but a bit like him, a total wheeler dealer. He'll go out there, he would get things going. So I've had mentors, and I think they are the reason why I'm where I am, because they really helped me to achieve um, and to get where I am. I think there's a, at least for me, I feel there's a time when they can come into play and really help you. They help to kickstart your journey. But then there's also an opportunity for us as entrepreneurs or as individuals to actually form peer groups to really learn about from each other. Because I think mentorship is great, but sometimes you need more help. And I discovered a peer helping group, let's say about 2.5 years back, and it's completely changed my life. Like it has helped me articulate my my needs, my requirements, but also helped me scale my business up. Like it's helped me scale like 4x in the back of learnings from it in just 2.5 years. And I think it's what I think about us human beings is that it's up to us what we make of our lives. It's up to us what how we do go about it. But there's enough support and help around us. If we look and we look carefully, there's plenty of things we can do to help ourselves. And so personally, while mentors are really helpful, I feel like peer groups are also a fantastic way to help you scale up. And then to find peers who are maybe if you are at this level, just find somebody who's a bit on this level so you can like come up to their levels as well. That's super helpful. And books. I mean, I read a lot of books. I mean, perhaps read less, but more like Audible, like do a lot of audiobooks, and I do it all the time. I try and read or consume one book per week at least. That's the bare minimum I do, and that's part of the reason why I keep myself refreshed, motivated, and looking for something bigger and better every day.
Mhm. Yeah, in thinking about it too, there's an emphasis, you have a passion for helping women succeed in tech as well, right? And tell us more about that. How has that journey been like for you? I'm asking because as a diversity, equity, inclusion practitioner, I also help organizations build inclusive cultures and diversify their hiring pipeline and coaching executive leaders to be more inclusive in their leadership practices.
And that's awesome. It's very commendable, Kong. Well done, you. I think we need more people like you to help us to actually get there, because I think there's a big disparity between what people want to do and what they can do or should do. And I think people like yourself, Kong, can really help us out. So thank you for doing that.
You bet.
Um, so just to kind of jump into that actual discussion, um, as a company mission and my personal mission as a business owner, we help to create consistent, reliable, and income and fair income opportunities for women, and to promote them in tech. Like that's our fundamental goal as a company. In fact, 80% of our team consists of women, and and we really want to hire more of them, and that's what keeps me up at night. But going back to your question, this came about from my experiences as a child. I was brought up in the Middle East and some parts of it in India, and I saw firsthand how, while studying computer science and sciences and engineering, there were handful of women, because there are less women in tech than they are in than they are men. And I noticed that there was these women who were there in engineering or tech. They were a handful, but they always performed. Their knowledge, their passion was incredible. If there were 30 boys and there were 10 girls, 10 girls will always be in the top 10, and you'll have the boys kind of struggling their way through. And I think that's commendable. But when it comes to representation within the tech industry, it's minuscule. Like I can't imagine why we don't encourage more women to actually join join tech, join engineering, and having a more balanced opinion. Because if we have just men making decisions all the time, it's not going to be balanced. And today, tech is everywhere, right from Facebook to mobile phones, to buying insurance, to buying house. You need tech. So we need to have a more balanced opinion. We need to have more women in tech. And so it's our mission now to actually hire more women so that we can help neutralize this tech industry to have a more balanced opinion. And I think as a male founder, I feel that this is my duty to do that. So I've got a daughter, I've got a sister, I've got a wife, I've got my mom. I mean, for my daughter to grow up into this world, and when she joins the workforce, I want to make sure that by the time she joins the workforce, she's joining a more fair economy, a fairer opportunity, and not come to this world where it's all male dominated BS from the top. I want it to be more neutral, inclusive, and all put together. And I'm doing whatever I can in my lifetime to make a small dent, and hope that other founders also do something similar and actually help to promote more balanced opinions across
Mhm.
the board and beyond.
That is so incredible. I wish more business owners and CEOs are thinking like you're thinking, because without leadership support, some of these organizations can formalize, groups within their organization and try to organize things from a grassroots level. But without leadership support, it's very hard to get anything done in the realm of helping to diversify the workforce or building inclusive cultures within organizations. My experience, I've worked with some of the world's top leadership development companies in the world, and the things I see in terms of helping companies build more inclusive cultures, coaching executive leaders on on diversity, equity, inclusion matters, is that it's tough work. There's resistance because people fear the unknown, and also a part of it is change. And so if we could get companies, startups to engage in these types of discussions early on in their um, you know uh, early stages of the business, then as they continue to grow, they would already have these best practices in place, and it would have already helped the organization grow early on, to be then a more established organization. So I, as a person of color, grew up in a small town where 1% was of racial minority. Like, this is important to me because, I face not just discrimination because of the color of my skin, but also lack of opportunities. And, it has, um, I've seen how it has negatively impacted me in terms of my career advancement. For example, being a person of color, even to my adult age, like I was working for a consulting business, and had applied for a role, and the hiring manager said, what are some of the unique skills or traits that you bring to this organization? And I said, well, as a person of color, you know, I I feel like my background can contribute to the diversity of thought of your team, and I think that I've got this unique perspective that I could share that could help your team innovate and build products that would enlighten your customers. And he said, I think you should tone that down a bit. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, the fact that I'm a person of color, I should tone it down? No, I'm not going to tone it down. I'm happy to be who I am. I am 100% Asian American, and I'm proud of my heritage. And if you don't like that, then maybe you might want to visit HR. I mean, I didn't say that to him, but in my mind, and I did report to HR, and they pulled him in, and had the discussion, and he had to go through diversity inclusion training. because of that comment. Just imagine, though. I mean, he is a prominent leader within this organization, has hired many, many, many people. Just imagine the the impact that he has had, based on that close-minded, maybe perhaps even discriminatory perception of people who look different than him as a white male counterpart. So that's very unfortunate, and it happens all the time, every day, within organizations. And so I'm happy that you're someone that is in line with this movement, and is taking action to ensure that the world is in a better place, and that everyone, no matter their skin color, their race, or gender, their sexual orientation, that they have equal representation, access, and opportunity, because that's the kind of world that we all should really strive for, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a such a old school way of thinking about hiring, recruiting, knowing people, or whatever it is that comes to. I think we need to live in today's world where there is an opportunity for all of us to shine, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I think actually, as you pointed out earlier, diversity is actually a great way to build a stronger business, just a stronger enterprise, building a stronger society. In fact, if we just have one type of people, and sorry to say, sorry if I use that type thing, but actually, if we just have one sort of way of thinking, then actually what happens is that we miss out on other opportunities. In fact, there has been a big study which says that actually for businesses to have a diverse workforce means more profitability, more revenue. So if you just want to think in that way, for example, and that makes you be more inclusive, that's awesome. But the reality is, diverse workforce is a stronger workforce. It's more inclusive, and actually it helps you generate more revenue. And so, I urge all business owners to think about this, and actually not only business owners, but also, people in the top management, middle management, and lower management to all think about this and actually go and hire more people who they believe they haven't hired before, and actually give them an opportunity, because you never know who might be the next star in your company.
Right, exactly. And some leaders, I've coached them and say, well, why can't I just hire the most qualified? And I'm like, well, that's great, but where are you looking? They're like, well, we're looking at at these schools. I'm like, well, these are the kinds of schools that you guys have been looking for the past 10 years, 20 years. And why not go to, your community organizations and find talent there, help them, partner with them to help you find talent, for people who are just as equally qualified, but may not, have come from these types of schools. And there are creative ways in which we can go about attracting talent, just equally as qualified, but may not come from the same universities that these organizations have been targeting for years. And they often say, I think, was it the Wells Fargo CEO that says, as much as we want to help diversify our workforce, it's hard to find African black talent. And his comment backfired on him, because he wasn't trying hard enough to be and be he wasn't, it sounds like it was just lazy kind of thinking and doing. They can't find black talent, when really there are black talent everywhere. You just got to look, and part of it could just be that he, it could just be his ignorance. The other part is that he just doesn't, doesn't put black talent as as part of his on his priority list. And so, but you're right. Like, studies have shown that organizations that are more inclusive, tend to outperform their competitors, because yeah, a diverse and inclusive workforce, of course, drives innovation, which then drives revenue for the business. Why is it making, why, if that's the case, why is it so hard for business owners and CEOs to attract not just top talent, but also people of diverse backgrounds. I think part of it has to do with that there's some power dynamic where they want power, and if they see more of the people that look like them in power, the more comfortable they are. And it has nothing to do with whether they want more business or more revenue. And that just defeats the whole purpose of a corporation, because the purpose of the corporation is to really, generate more revenue for the business. So they're not really playing the infinite games. They're playing the finite game. And so anyway,
Just one comment on that. I think it is might help put a different spin on this, which is, I mean, I said before the interview that I love traveling. It opens my mind up to different ideas and concepts. And I love my family to travel with me as well, so they can all learn together. I think often when you go visit a different culture which we're not used to, we might find something offensive, or perhaps we don't understand them. And I think one thing that I've done over the last few years is to understand and see them from their lens and not from my lens. I think that's a big shift. When we see people from their lens, when someone is coming to you and offering you to stay in their house and they don't have a roof to stay under, uh, they are offering more than what they can. I mean, would I do that, for example? It'd be really hard for me to do that, for instance. But when you look at this from their lens, you understand what they're offering you, what they're giving you, what they're allowing you to be part of. I think in the context of CEOs and hiring managers, we have to shift our thinking to meet the criteria and the understanding of the candidate itself. So what do they bring from their perspective? Really understand them. Understand, if you want to be open as a company, we have to start thinking from the point of view of people you want to attract to our company. Instead of thinking about us as hiring managers and what we want. That's how you bring in clients, for example. You think from their perspective, not from your own. You don't talk about yourself, you talk about them and their problems and their issues. That's how you hire clients. So why is it different for candidates you want to hire into your company? You have to think from their perspective and help them out to overcome their challenges. So that's the only way we'll actually make this happen. And I think for me, I mean, I'll be honest with you, for me, the longest time I didn't have a criteria or a value, core value. And our core values have formed halfway through the business, so 3 years after we formed the business. And that changed everything for us, because we start to think about what makes a good Goodman Lanterner. Is it about these values versus this value? Is it important that they, how important is it for us to have someone who looks this way or speaks this way? And realize it's not. It's not. Actually, people who have passion and driven is what we need. We don't need how the university graduates and stuff. We don't need somebody who is from a particular part of the world. We need somebody who is passionate about what they do and is keen to learn and grow. And that things change. That's how things change. And that's why the last 2.5 to 3 years has been a game changer for us, because we have grown our mindset, and that's helped us grow our business as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. Really, I do want to acknowledge just your work and support in this space, because it can be challenging. And when, as a CEO of your company, setting the tone is important, because it really does guide your organization to reinforce these important concepts of what it means to build a culture where people can really be themselves and really shine, no matter who they are, whether they are female or what race they are or whatnot. And I think that me coming from a big family, having 6 sisters, like, they have really shaped me to be the person I am today. And like with you have a wife and a daughter, and you've got I'm sure influential female counterparts that that helps you grow you and be successful. Like, without them, you wouldn't be who you are today. And so it's important that we honor that and provide those access and opportunities for women. So props for you and in your business in that. So in terms of this concept of purpose, what's your definition of success and fulfillment?
Great question. And the articulation of that has always been a challenge. So internally, we call this our BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Mhm.
And the BHAG really is to hire women across the world, especially in countries where there is a challenge to kind of get meaningful work because they can't travel outside because there's gender-based violence, for example. So we try to focus on those economies as well as economies like the US and UK as well. So we try to have a good balance there. Um, the goal really is to become the single biggest employer of women in tech and digital, and to allow them to work from the comfort of their home, flexi working hours. That's a big part of what we do. We have learned from experiences that women require more flexibility than men do from our studies and from our research and our interview process. And so we want to make that's part of what we do. So we allow our team members to travel, to work at the times when they're available, and we try to fit the role around them. Uh, Obviously, there are some constraints, but beyond that, we allowed them to kind of work flexi hours. And actually, it's been fantastic because unlike other companies, we have been able to hire great talent. We have a nice queue of people who want to join our company, and so that's been the benefit of it. But our big hairy audacious goal is to hire more women. And initially, we set up some numbers. Okay, this will be a milestone, but actually, we put up a milestone and we smash it every time. So we're like, now we're going to keep it, nice and vague in terms of the number, and actually we focused on our actual goal, which is to hire more women, empower them, address issues, fix those issues, re go again at it, and keep hiring and growing and building an ethos for other people to copy and be motivated from to hire um, in a very diverse way and not be focused on this one very strict criteria. Um, One point I want to mention as well is that it might appear that we are being sexist about things, that we're only hiring women. That's not true. We do hire men as well. But our aim really is to increase diversification. So we will go out of our way to understand people's story, their motivation. We have some phenomenal people from across the world, from Latin America to Asia to Africa to Europe to Australia, and we got some great people, but we don't base them on their universities they've been to or their their experiences based in a particular country. It's about their passion for what they do and how they can help everybody else in the company to to achieve their goals. So that's how we hire people. It's not easy. It's a very difficult process, but this is part of what we do. And this is hopefully once things become clearer for us, we'll open source the entire process. People can use it as a template for their own hiring as well.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And that is so exciting, that big big goal that you have. I'd love to jump on this ship if that's okay with you. And if there's any way that I could help you in that arena, I'll definitely let you know. So we are about that time, and I just have a few more questions for you. My next question here is, what inspires you to do this work?
Well, so digital has been my passion for many years. So that's something which I love. It's the only thing I know. I'm an engineer who got into digital and I love it. I think the inspiration is that I want to make a difference before my daughter joins the workforce and she comes into a fairer workforce. That's my personal motivation to kind of do this thing.
Mhm.
Um, but why in tech? I mean, I want more women in tech as well. That's another part of the sort of the the part two of the goal. And it's because all I know is tech, and I've seen it from my own experiences that there are very talented people, women in tech, but they never got the opportunity. They still are not in the same level as men can or men have been. So yeah, all I'm doing right now is making sure that what I've seen before before my time's up, I make a small change in that.
Mhm. That's incredible. And thank you again for honoring your truth and really bring more equitable practices and into your business, and helping to contribute and make a dent into this world we live in that could oftentimes be a challenge for more so for women than men. So I appreciate that. If folks if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Well, I lurk around LinkedIn quite a bit, so LinkedIn is very easy. You can find me if you Google or if you search on LinkedIn for Raj Goodman Anand, you should be able to locate me there. Please do add me, connect with me. I love to hear from people, so please drop me a line.
Perfect. Well, folks, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you do plan to reach out to Raj, please reference where you found him, which is here, the Purpose Tune podcast. Thank you again, folks, for tuning in. And I hope that you all are having a splendid day or night, depending when you're listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carl.